and for that reason, I better turn my microphone on because I know my mom's probably watching at home too right now. She does. Hi, Mom. Anyways, the other thing I would like to note is that we will have the ability to attend these meetings by Zoom, so you can tune in, but you cannot vote if you're attending by Zoom. I believe that's the two primary purposes, points that I needed to make early on. I will now recognize Vice Chairman Blackwell for his first motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to elect Senator Jeff Tate as Secretary of the Committee.
All right.
He's not here to defend himself, so.
That's right. So we've got a second. Do I hear a motion to close nominations?
So moved.
All right. So all in favor of Senator Tate serving as secretary, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. All right. I love it when we can tell somebody to do something like that. That's good. All right. Do you have another motion?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to move to adopt a quorum of 5 members as a majority of the committee as sufficient quorum to proceed with business.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So that motion does carry. Senator Blackwell for another motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd say move that we adopt the rules of the Senate as the committee rules of procedure, with the exception that a motion to reconsider may be disposed of on the same day it's entered.
All right. Thank you, Senator Blackwell. Are there any questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right. That motion carries as well. Thank you, Senator Blackwell. And we are officially off and running now with our elections committee. You'll see in front of you our agenda for today. I have 5 bills, but I will let you know, and Senator Fillingham, I believe this is the first time I'm going to let you know that we're going to pass on 2058 for today, but I do expect to come back to that one at our next meeting. So we'll move to Senate Bill number 2144, which is addressing runoff elections. And just to tell you very simply what this does, it moves runoff elections from the current way we do that is 3 weeks after the election. This moves that to 4 weeks. And we've heard from a lot of different people around the state, the Secretary of State's office for one, circuit clerks, folks that deal with elections have mentioned how tough it is to get an election certified and get ballots printed and everything within 3 weeks. So this does allow a little bit of extra time. I did receive a call earlier today from the Secretary of State's office that has a concern with respect to there may be a potential issue with August primaries. So what I'm going to do is ask for a motion from the committee to put a reverse repealer in this bill so that we can just make sure to look at that. So if anyone would like to make that motion. So moved. Okay, so the motion is to put a reverse repealer in the bill. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we will have a reverse repealer in the bill. Are there any questions on the bill? Seeing none, do I have a motion? All right, we have title sufficient to pass committee sub. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that bill will be reported out. Okay, Senate Bill number 2367 is your next bill. Again, I'll just give you a brief synopsis of what this bill does. It bans ranked choice voting in the state. It does ban it from your top offices on down. I'm not aware of anywhere in Mississippi currently that uses ranked choice voting. I don't believe we have any, but this is something that is coming about. You may have heard this referred to as instant runoff type elections, where you have candidates on a ballot and you rank them. I will say that this bill keeps the exception in there to allow for members of our military that are serving overseas that get their ballots usually well in advance. And if there's a runoff, they don't have time to get their votes in. So they're allowed to rank their votes. So in case there's a runoff there and their top vote getting candidate does not make the runoff, then it would go to their next ranking of the next candidate. But otherwise, this will ban ranked choice voting in Mississippi. Are there any questions? Senator Bryan?
Well, as I understand it, the legislature sets the rules for everything except municipal elections. So as a practical matter, you couldn't do this except in municipal elections unless we change state law to specifically authorize it. And I'm not sure that we even permit it in municipalities, but I'm not sure why I care if some municipality somewhere wants to have ranked choice voting. It seems to me getting ahead of the game, and it basically seems, I don't know whether it's a good idea or not, but it seems harmless, at least superficially. I don't know what the great evil is of ranked choice voting, nor in any event will I care if they have ranked choice voting in Belzona.
Thank you, Senator Bryan. I understand your point very well. I do think this is it's a more complicated system, and there's obviously pros and cons to that. But the bill we have before us does ban it across the board in the state. Any other questions, Senator Blackwell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would this also apply to our college students who are out of state?
Yes, yeah. If we currently do not allow them to rank their ballots either. The only people that we allow to do that are through the federal code, the folks that are serving overseas, to our men and women in our military.
I'm just wondering with the time, maybe if we push out the runoffs to 4 weeks, they still that might provide them enough time, but I just know there's at 3 weeks, certainly put it tight for any of them to request a absentee ballot. So I was just wanting to know if it could include them as well, or if we need to include them.
I think that was a good point. So somebody might need to push Senator Bryan's button there so we can make that good point on the record.
As if they wanted to vote, they should have gone to school in state. What are they doing going to school out of state?
Great. It was a great
Heaven
point.
knows what sort of ideas they'll put in their heads if they get out of state to someplace other than Mississippi teaching them things. We can't have that.
That's right.
Nip
That's
it
right.
in the bud.
Thank you, Senator Bryan. And Senator Blackwell, I think your point's well made. And if we want to look at that in the future to maybe do that, I'd be willing to talk with you about it. But I think the best thing to do now is just to keep the bill as is. It's my preference moving forward. Thank you, Senator Blackwell. Any other questions? Okay. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Senator Chasnold. The motion is titled sufficient due pass. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Okay, the ayes have it. That bill will be reported out. Senate Bill number 2422 is your next bill on our agenda today. This bill requires that the judges that are selected to hear election day disputes be identified no later than 7 days prior to the election. What has happened in the past is those individuals, these judges aren't identified. You have an election day dispute arise, and then you're trying to rush to figure out who those judges are to make the ruling and to get the matter resolved. So this will require that those judges be identified within 7 days prior to the election. So we will avoid that problem in the future. Are there any questions on this bill? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Title sufficient due pass.
Motion is title sufficient due pass. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. All right, the ayes have it. That bill will be reported out. Our last bill for today is bill number 2579. This bill is essentially undoing what we saw happen during our COVID crisis in 2020. And I'm sorry I said the C word. I know that we've probably all moved on wanting to hear from that. When that occurred, we allowed for ballots that were postmarked on election day to be counted within up to 5 days after the election. This does away with that. I think it's a rule that we need to go back to. I think that, in my opinion, when we have votes that are being counted after election day like this, whether there's any bad intent or not, it doesn't, it's not perceived by the public well when we're counting votes that have been received after election day. So that's one of the concerns. And also, this is the way we were before COVID. I think it's a good time for us to move back on that. Now, I will say in this bill that the old rule, the old law required ballots, mail-in ballots to be received by 5 p.m. on election day. This does extend that to 7 p.m. and it allows for common carriers such as UPS and FedEx to to deliver those ballots. So if a voter wants to make sure that they FedEx their ballots in, their absentee ballots in to get them, they're able to do that if they want to incur that charge to do so. So that's really the only change from the previous bill. Are there any questions on Senate Bill 2579? Senator Fillingham?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I was just curious, I think if you vote on election day and you have a problem with your ID, you can do an affidavit ballot, and then within 5 days after that, you can come back to the circuit clerk's office and show your actual ID to have your ballot counted. This doesn't impact any of those, even though technically it would be after the election.
Yes, this does not impact those. And I have talked with our circuit clerks about those. And fortunately, there's usually very few in number with that. And very rarely do individuals come back and show their ID, because usually the results are already out and they've started announcing. And so whether they voted for or against a winning candidate, they're not going to make that drive to their elections commission's office. But they do have 5 days. And I also, and I would have to have counsel verify this, but I believe that 5-day time period had it before. Remind me to tell Senator Younger he spoke too long in his agriculture committee meeting and ran the battery down. I believe that's in the Constitution, but this does not affect that, if that answers your question. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
Title sufficient do pass.
All right, the motion is title sufficient do pass. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, say no. All right, thank you. And before I entertain a motion to rise and report, I'll say that we are going to plan to have another meeting here. We will have, just to give you a heads up, we're going to take up a campaign finance reform bill. We're going to take up an in-person early voting bill, and we're going to take up a few other bills that I have that I just want to make sure that we're ready on. And I'm happy to answer any questions and talk to the committee members individually on any of these if you want to see me before. But we will be meeting again. So I'll announce that, and I will try to look at each of your schedules, because I know we'll get busy these weeks, and I want to make sure that I would like to have us all here to vote on these very important elections matters. So do I have a motion? Motion is rise and report. Thank you, Senator Parker.